Good morning, everyone. This morning's learning is dedicated in memory of Chava Bas Tzvi Dov Bankova, Yosef ben Rachamim Baruch, Hilda Bas Meir Cohen, Gillian Bas Yehuda Wells, Tzvi ben Maya Goldring, Aryeh ben Chaim, Francis Phillips, Shlomo ben Chaim Batino. We wish each and every one of their respective families long life and only simchas. I can see Richard's come on. Richard, we wish you and the family long life, as well as Vicky and all those that are listening. So we continue learning the ethics of the fathers, some of the timeless topics and principles which guide us or should guide us in our lives. I hope you enjoyed last night the fascinating talk by Shimon Cohen from the PR office, who's worked with the likes of the Prince of Jordan and Nelson Mandela. Incredible stories, incredible evening last night. Okay, so the next principle is number 13, Mishnah 13. It says as follows: Hu haya omer, he would say, so that's Hillel, Negid Shema Avad Shemei, somebody who seeks a name to make a reputation for himself, then eventually they'll lose their name. Udelo Mosif Yasif, and who somebody doesn't increase in their thirst and quest for knowledge and education, then they'll lose it. And if a person refuses to teach, to share the wisdom that he has, then he deserves death. Quite a harsh statement, especially bearing in mind that Hillel was so placid and understanding. So I have to understand that. Ishtamash besaga chalaf. And somebody who exploits the crown of Torah will fade away. Okay, we're not going to be able to do all of these justice because I want to move on to the next Mishnah as well, but just a few remarks about this Mishnah. So Hillel said as follows: if you try to seek to make a name for yourself, then eventually you'll lose it. Okay, if it's all about the PR and it's all about the image rather than the substance, then that people will eventually see that there isn't anything really there. You scratch the surface and you see the cracks. So I think that is, simply speaking, that is what the Mishnah is saying to us, that if we try to pursue a reputation right long after they've passed away, it's because they accomplished and achieved something of note, something of substance, something that endures. When there's basis to it, when it's something that's substantial, something with foundations, then that reputation is only going to grow. People look back and they say, what an extraordinary effort. I mean, you only have to think, we discussed a bit last night, of the founder of Hatzalah, right? An organization that saves lives every single day, built on volunteers. No other faith or no other organization is like it. Within a minute it can be at your door, in front of your door, and saving lives. And if as Shimon said, you have an organization like that, and even if a non-Jew were to call them on Shabbat, they would still go. They wouldn't ask questions. So that is point number one. So the point number two is this rather harsh statement by Hillel. Hillel says that, if you do not increase in Torah, then eventually you will lose what you have. And the question is, why should that be? I've acquired wisdom. It's mine now. Why should I may not go up, I may not increase, I may not grow, but why should that diminish over the course of time? So the idea is we're not discussing here the acquisition of wisdom alone. In other words, do I know facts? But it is the way of life. It's difficult to describe, but it is the idea that these ideas are meant to transcend our physical being and to transform and change us for the better over the course of time. We're not meant to be the same people before and after, but it is an ongoing process, right? If you stop, then things just revert to the way they are. That's just the way it is. I guess it's like if you're trying to go up, as one of my teachers said, you're trying to go up an escalator that's going down. If you stop, you'll just go down. So we all know that we have apathy, we have, we have inertia. There are things that naturally are going to carry us down. So therefore, the Torah is something which is God's wisdom, which enables us to refine ourselves, so we become more sensitive, more considerate, more spiritual, dare I say it. And that only continues to endure as long as we keep stretching that muscle. If you stop working on that muscle, then it ceases to function. So that's what this Mishnah is saying. If we go on to the next Mishnah, which you're probably more familiar with, it says as follows: Hu haya omer, he used to say, this again is a statement by Hillel, Im eina nili mili, if I am not for myself, then who am I? And sha'ani la'atzmi, and when I am for myself, ma'ani, what am I? And if not now, then when? Let us take each of these statements, these famous statements, one by one. If I am not for myself, then what am I? Right? So the question is quite simple, right? If I do not, if I, we spoke about it the other day in with Hampstead Garden Suburb, Rabbi Friedman. We're in a generation where there is a complete outsourcing of everything. We don't want to do things for ourselves anymore. Wealth is where you have delegated all responsibilities, and therefore we relinquish our responsibilities and our ability to bring about change, because we're now not in charge of our lives. It's like a runaway train. We've left, be it our physical well-being, our mental well-being, our diet, our life decisions. Everything can be and is outsourced. And the idea is that what we are saying in this Mishnah is the buck stops with us, and we have to recognize that. We have to take back control of our lives and the decision making that we have. And that also applies in terms of our Jewish our spirituality. Where do we want to be? How do we want to be remembered? You can't use the excuse the whole of your life, I didn't have the ideal upbringing, I didn't come from a home like yours. That's a poor excuse. It really doesn't hold any water, because there are so many opportunities, be it online with all different websites that I'm happy to share with people, or be it through the learning programs that we have, or books that you can read. There's so much content you can read online. There are endless possibilities of listening, watching, or reading to be able to put ourselves in a position, where we are knowledgeable, aware of what we are doing and why we are doing things. So that's point number one. On a simple level, it also means if I don't look after myself, then who is going to look after me? We mentioned about it on a spiritual level, but it also means in terms of our psychological well-being, our mental well-being, our physical well-being. You can't, sometimes there is a danger that we are always outward looking and not inward looking. There's of course also danger where we are only inward looking. But first and foremost, we have to make sure that we are in control of our lives, and we are looking after our well-being in terms of ourselves, and making sure that before we do for the world and sundry, that we make sure that we do for ourselves. Point number two, the Mishnah then goes on to say, but if it is just that I am, if it is just that I am thinking of myself, then what am I? Right? The whole point of creation in this world, God didn't need anything, right? Being omnipotent, he doesn't lack anything. But the one reason why he created this world is the idea of giving, of sharing, because the source, if you have blessing, then you want to share it. You need to share it. And there is something that you feel lacking when you keep things to yourself. So that's the point. If it is that I just work on myself, I live in my ivory tower, and I make sure that I'm okay, I'm self-sufficient, I grow in spirituality, I'm doing everything that I should, and I don't worry about anybody else, then what am I? How am I going to be remembered? The whole idea is that we make ourselves an indispensable cog in the great machine of the Jewish people and civilization as a whole. And therefore, the more people that become reliant on us, the greater the contribution that we are making, the more valuable we are, the more we are worthy of having a special place both in this world and the next world. And the next statement is Vim lo achshav emasai. How often, when we speak about either inward or outward growth, do we say, I'll do it tomorrow, I'll push it off for another day? And what the Mishnah is telling us is that the buck stops with us, right? You have to do things today. Mitzvah haba liyadcha otach mitzena. The statement of our sages is, if a mitzvah comes to you, an opportunity knocks, don't push it off, don't delay it. Because every second of every day, there is something that we can and are meant to be doing. Everything's b'shed. God, as it were, has given us, allotted us with a certain amount of time. And every second we can do something. So if I push this off to 5 minutes time, that means what I should have been doing in 5 minutes time is going to be pushed off. And it carries on and on and on. So we're meant to fill our lives with as much meaning, as much significance for ourselves and for others. And that's what the Mishnah is saying. And we know that Hillel himself, just by way of anecdote, Hillel himself didn't have the idyllic start to life. They were exceptionally poor. In those days, you had to pay a coin to go into the Beis Medrash to be able to learn, and he didn't have the required funds. And so, as a young man, he literally climbed on the roof of the study hall, and he put his ear to the glass, and he listened. And that's the way he listened. And it started to snow, and he literally became frozen to the roof. And the next day, when it should have been bright light coming through the skylight, they noticed it was dark, and then they looked up and they realized that somebody was on the roof. And they brought him down, and they managed to bring him back to life. And from that day on, they never ever would charge him for entrance. But my point is, look at Hillel, who is making this very statement. He lived by this adage, right? That if I am not for myself, then what am I? And if I am only for myself, then who am I? And if not now, then when? It's an important, timeless idea for us that we should carry in our top pockets wherever we are, whatever we are doing. Make the most of every second. If there is one lesson to take away from COVID, it is precisely that lesson. If you want to wait and you say, okay, I'll wait, it's going to be more ideal later. We don't know what's around the corner. But I know that now I have an opportunity. I know now that I can make change, improvement. I can make a difference. Don't waste and fritter away the precious seconds of time that we have in this world. Okay, we're going to stop there. We'll do Psalm 23 first. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He causes me to lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside still waters. He restores my soul. He leads me in the paths of righteousness for his name's sake. Even as I walk in the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for you are with me. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. You set a table before me in the presence of my adversaries. You anointed my head with oil, my cup overflows. May only goodness and kindness pursue me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord for the length of days. Adon Olamim Zocho Es Nishmois. Chava Bas Vidov Bankova, Yosef Ben Rachamim Baruch, Hilda Bas Meir Cohen, Jillian Bas Yehuda Wells, Zvi Ben Meyer Goldring, Aria Ben Chaim, Francis Phillips, Shlomo Ben Chaim Bettino, Shalchulia, Lea Bas Faivo, Binyamin Akiva Ben Shlomo, Rabbi Yaakov Ben David Aryeh, Tzivia Bas Mordechai Romba, David Slavin, Super Fegilibus, Rabbi Shana Ben Eleli, Ben Bas Faivo, from Moshe Shana Bas Yaakov Shmo, Caleb Ben Bas Henoch, Yom Yochia Ben Moshe Eliezer, Sar Marco Bas Ben Yamin, Shlomo Yochia Ben Yeshua Levi, Arva Mordechai Ben Moshe, Shalchuli Lamam Bagan Eden, Taimanucha, Sam Lachin, Balorachamim, Yasrain, Veseso Kanafafila Lamim, Viesos Chesishmasam Adonai, Nachlasam, Vianuchu, Bishalam Mishkavam, Venomar. Amen. Long life to all those that have Yortzeit or are saying Kaddish. Misha Berchav Zain Robbins, Viaka Moshe Aaron W. Shlomo Yivarech Rapes Acholim, Ba'avo Shana Mispalim, Ba'avo Ram, Bischazer Kadosh Baruch Hu, Yimalei Rach, Yimalei Hemlach, Malafos, Avishlach Lem, Fushim, and Shemaim, Lachalevim, Besach Shach Yisrael, Refuas Nefesh, Refuas Gov, Hashabak Zbakarif and Amar, Amen. Wish everyone well who's unwell. We wish good morning to Colin, Peter, Richard, and long life to Richard, to Michael, Rachel, Powell, Richard, again, Caroline, Harry, Estelle, David, Michelle, Carol, and Jackie. Good morning to each and every one of you. Lovely to see you on this rather snowy day. I think there's a few flurries of snow, but nothing serious in Woodside Park. We're very tough and we'll survive. Wishing everyone well. Look after yourselves. A reminder that next Monday, I want to draw your attention to somebody who, good morning, Stephen Rabbi. Welcome to Woodside Park. So next Monday, I want to draw your attention to, we have JJ Sussman, somebody who I knew over 20 years ago, and he has built an incredible organization called Gesher, which builds bridges between the different segments of the Israeli population. Fascinating work to learn. We know that there is so much strife and division and disunity in Israel, and here is somebody whose life's work it is to bring about cohesion and unity in Israel. An extraordinary man, and we look forward to meeting and talking with him and having a reunion. I haven't spoken to him properly for over more than 20 years, actually. So we look forward to that. Keep safe, keep well. The lunch quiz is at 12 o'clock.